Welcome back to the county seat. We've been talking about how to cover the insurance costs or the health care costs of inmates while they're in jail. And currently, the county has to pick up the tab for all of it. It's hugely expensive if you've been watching the earlier part of this show. And we were last on the topic of how does personal responsibility for people's behaviors play into this. And Reed Richards, a member of the staff of the Weber County Attorney's Office, who also represents the Utah Sheriff's Association, was dying to say something about this, and we had to take a commercial break. So Reed, take it away.
I think that premise is entirely flawed. The issue, I think, is much broader than insurance. In my view, someone who is using the space in the jail has an obligation to take care of the cost of that jail expense. Beyond just medical expenses, I think that a person who commits crime, is sentenced to jail, has an obligation to pay to the extent that they possibly can for the full cost of incarceration, including the medical expenses. Because it's they that have caused the problem. It's not you and I as taxpayers. It shouldn't be taxpayer money supporting them. They ought to take care of it themselves. And if they've already paid for insurance to cover their medical needs, why shouldn't that extend for the 2 weeks to 2 months that they might spend in jail?
Well, to adequately answer that, because I didn't really understand the answer that I got from the other side of the argument, we'll have to invite them to come back and debate this, and hopefully we can do this before the legislature starts next year so we can really get both sides and go through this and get some clarity for the people at home and for the legislators at the state capitol. But that does lead to the next question. You know, the bill was put out to pasture this year. What tax do you, I mean, this is an issue you feel important enough to come back for next year?
I would think so. What we may want to do next year is separate the Department of Corrections from the jails, because the prison is housing people for a long term, and so their argument's a little different than the jails where you house somebody for a very short period of time.
Okay. Well, Sheriff Winter, any last comments about this?
No, just I appreciate the opportunity to come out and educate the folks about, as you said, an issue that is hugely critical to both our pocketbooks and to our communities.
Just as a last closing thought before we go, just tell us that number one more time, just so it really sinks in. We got 30 seconds.
The 2010 medical budget for the Salt Lake County Jail was $6.9 million.
Wow. Well, I think that speaks enough for itself. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this week on the County Seat. We'll look for you next week right here on the County Seat. You can always catch the show online at thecountyseat.tv. It's on the web, and it broadcasts on all 5 major cable carriers around the state during the week. So we'll see you next week.